Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Elijah Ware, a metaphysical minister and teacher of spiritual truth. We're going to tell you more about him in just a moment, but first, stop what you're doing. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. I always need more volunteer dreamers. And you can get a t-shirt, a coffee mug, direct donations, support my work. Also, I have 11 currently available books of historical dream literature, working on book 12 and simultaneous audiobook release. Also got book 13 in the works. Just a workhorse. I just like working. So there it is. That's the housekeeping good enough for now. And back to our guest. So not only the introduction I've given, a metaphysical minister, but you've also got a podcast, Zephyr, like the breeze, Zephyr. And I figured you might want to, say a little bit about yourself, and we'll talk about what you do.
Okay. Well, as you stated, my name is Elijah Ware. I am a minister and metaphysics and spiritual truth teacher. I was reared in metaphysics in the school of Dr. Henry C. Kinley, who was a metaphysical and spiritual truth teacher who avowed that he had a spiritual experience in the state of Ohio in the year of 1931 on June the 6th, in which he had the purpose and will of the Creator revealed in his consciousness. As weird as that may sound, as bizarre as that may sound, it is not as bizarre as you may think, because with the Bible being one of the best-selling books in the world, it says in Numbers 12:6 that if God is going to speak in and to a man, he will do it in a vision and in a dream. So he used to tell us all the time, if anyone says that they had an experience with God, he said the litmus test says, ask them did they have a vision and a dream? Because if they didn't, then they probably did not have an spiritual experience with God. But he, along with men like Neville Goddard and Emanuel Swedenborg, said that this experience changed him and changed the way that he looked at the world, and also not only the world, but his relation to mankind, and foremostly his relation to his Creator. And he went about for over 50 years to preach and teach metaphysics to people such as myself. Even though I'm Black, we had a mixed congregation.
Well, there's a slight stutter in your internet connection.
The school was incorporated, started in Ohio. The school started in Ohio in the year of 1931, but it was incorporated in the state of California in the year of 1958. When I came along, Dr. Kinley had already passed out of this fleshly realm, and I was taught by his protege, Dr. Robert Harris, who really was my immediate teacher. And Dr. Harris was a licensed medical doctor, graduated from Meharry Medical, and went about to show us how that the physical body and everything that man can see correlates to the Creator. And so when people would say that I don't have any proof of God, he'd say, just look in the mirror. And he would tell us how that you have a head, a chest, and an abdomen that points to the fact that the Father is the Word or Son and the Holy Spirit, and these three are one. He would tell us how that you have, a vein and an artery, and everywhere you have an artery, you have a vein, is because there are two types of consciousness, a carnal consciousness and a spiritual consciousness, you see, and the two kind of go along down through history hand in hand. He would tell us how that man has what they call an arterial circle of the Willis in his brain, which is 7 blood vessels coming together to form a stick figure of a man, and how that points to the fact that you are a child of the grand man of the heavens, the Creator. So he went about in so many different ways, showing us how a cell is a nucleus in a cell body, and that witnesses to God the Father, God the Word, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That an atom has a proton, a neutron, and an electron, and that witnesses to God the Father, God the Word, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And all of these things, he said, the Creator just went bankrupt to make mankind in his likeness and in his image, to show them that he dwells in them and that they are one with him, and that between him and them there is no middle wall of partition, or there is no separation. We've really been like fish in the ocean looking for water when it comes to our search for the Creator. because we always look outwardly. I'll say this and then I'll be done. They asked the Messiah, they said, when will the kingdom of heaven come? This is over in Luke, the 17th chapter. And he said to them, Ben, he said, the kingdom of heaven cometh not by observation, you see. And he went on to tell them that the kingdom of heaven is within you. Now, if the kingdom of heaven is within you and heaven is the abode of God, then that means that you should look for God within you. As the Apostle Paul wrote over in Colossians 20:26, the Messiah in you is the only hope of immortal glory or eternal happiness. So that's what we teach and preach.
That is really cool. That's a lot, and a lot of the examples you've given are parallel to or found synonymous with a lot of other different teachings that talk about, looking for the Spirit of God inside you. You're not going to find it in this material world, and that's why people can't very often provide proof, so to speak, or satisfactory proof. Now, just to be clear with the audience, so you can see here, folks, that I have my, say, rationalist scientific perspective, but I'm speaking to people of all types, and there's a lot of different ways of understanding these phenomena. And even though I've got my particular way of looking at things, and that's how the lens through which I do it, if someone else has a different way of looking at it and they get results, they get things that are useful, beneficial, make life better, make the lives of the people around them better, and it works, I'm not here to finger wag at anyone and tell them, my way is the best or the only way. And it also, a couple of things came to mind when you were talking about that. As you mentioned, Emanuel Swedenborg, and I've actually come across, in my research of dreams, you got to get into biblical visions going way back when, and you get into people in more recent years that have self-reported dreams and visions that inspired them. And I think we were talking a little bit off the air too, where it's like, where does inspiration come from? Where do these
the word says
revolutionary ideas, and to inspire, to take in from somewhere else. So, so I'm not one to say.
The word education means to draw out from within. So, everything is within. I don't beat people over the head with anything, because I believe that spiritual truth must be revealed. When people ask me different things, well, how can you believe in something you can't see? I tell them, look, you love your wife and your children. When's the last time you've seen love walking down the street with a pair of Levi jeans on? You've seen manifestations of love, but you've never seen the entity called love itself.
Yeah.
We say, in my mind. Well, when's the last time you've seen the mind of a man? You've seen the manifestations and the fruit of that mind, but you've never seen a mind. So we believe in things all the time. We believe in hate, but you never seen hate walking down the street. But you would say that somebody like a Hitler or a Stalin, that they were hateful men, but you never walked up to love and said, or hate or love and said, hey, how you doing? Hey, put her there. My name's Elijah Ware. Or put her there. I'm Ben the Wizard. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, you see, you're going to believe what it is that, or the people who are listening are going to believe what it is that resonates with them. All we're doing is sharing. And I say that all the time on my podcast, Zephyr. I can't teach you anything. It says over in John 14:26 that there is a divine comforter in you that shall teach you all things. Paul said how that by revelation, the Messiah made known unto me the mystery of his will. I was sharing, I'll just share this with you briefly. I was sharing with one of my assistants that the word mystery is in the Bible over 43 times.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the time it's used by the Apostle Paul. And my teacher, Dr. Harris, he would often make us look up words in the dictionary. He said, don't be so mentally lazy. Go and look up that word. So if you look up the word mystery in the Bible, then the word mystery, the third definition, because you have to add the apropos definition, the third definition of mystery is a religious truth knowable only by divine revelation. So when we're talking about knowing the Creator, it says Adam knew Eve and she conceived. We know that the word know means to have an intimate relationship with. You see, Neville Goddard was just mentioning the other day when I was listening to one. He didn't just mention it the other day, but I heard him mention it the other day. He died in the 70s, so he didn't just mention it the other day.
Thanks to YouTube, he can mention it every day.
Right. No, I was just talking to my buddy Nev, and he was saying, no, he died in the 70s, but he was saying the other day, as a matter of fact, no, it was Emmett Fox. It wasn't Neville Goddard. Emmett Fox was saying that symbolism of the bread with the Messiah, you see, and of the blood and of the wine is so apropos, because we know that when it talks about him, his body being symbolized by the bread, eating is something that no one else can do for you. You must assimilate the food for yourself and digest it. So I can't know or have an experience that's going to convince you any more than me eating would satisfy your hunger. You understand? You understand what I'm saying, Ben?
Lots of powerful metaphors here.
My relationship with the Creator is not going to satisfy whatever desire is latent in you to know the divine and know the source of all things for yourself. So at the end of the day, like Neville said, we are all a part of that heavenly or ultimate source. So we don't have to argue with each other about who's more godly or who is more God, because you're just as much God or divine source as I am. Dr. Kinley put it like this, and then I'll let you get on. He said, I'm Yahweh, and so are you, and so is Fido in the backyard. He said, the difference is, or I'm God, and so are you, and so is Fido in the backyard. He said, the difference is I know it and you don't. And there's a world difference in the knowing and the not knowing. So that's all we're here to do is share.
Absolutely. That's the whole purpose of this thing that I'm doing too, is like, I'd like to believe I'm pointing the way, whatever the way is. And hopefully it is the way because it's useful, because it has some positive benefit. If it's helping people, it's got to be the right thing to do in my estimation.
Right.
And I love that you mentioned the mystery in the Bible, because actually the second book I worked on, and I made it the second book on purpose. Like the first one was a test project. The second one I really wanted to put effort into, and it ended up being almost 400 pages, something like that. It is the reproduction of a sermon called The Mystery of Dreams by a preacher, Philip Goodwin, from like the 1500s, 1600s, way back then. And he was really talking about how to know it's really God talking to you. This was his perspective, and a lot of translated Latin in there. God, it took me forever, but put a lot of heart into that book, because I wanted to give it each book.
What's it called again?
Oh, it's called The Mystery of Dreams, my second book in the ABC series.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at it.
Very cool.
Email me the name when we're done.
Absolutely.
Can I find it online?
Yes. And links in the description below. Also to our guests too. We'll get you guys connected. I'll find his podcast and Instagram and Facebook and get you.
You don't have to plug me right now, Ben. There's plenty of time for that.
I'll plug you over and over again. That's what we do. I want people, because I think people find my guests interesting, and I want them to know where to find them. So that's I make sure they have that information at their fingertips.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, but what he was saying, no, I had a point to that. Anyway, the Mystery of Dreams, I give the full-throated expression of the original author. So this is not me pulling it out of my head. Maybe someday I'll write a book of my own. But if there's a guy writing about his understanding of the psychology of dreams, which is the most recent book I put out, I give his words as fully and completely as I can, and just clean it up a little bit for modern English and printing and value. So, and it's not me necessarily extolling that perspective personally. I'm telling you, this is what he said, and it's going to be presented as is in its fullness. So it doesn't and I think, for specifically Christian viewers who might be out there, who are is this witchcraft? No, not what I do, and nor is it incompatible with Christianity, is in my estimation, and hopefully proving that through giving special attention. And
the Bible is full of men who would interpret dreams.
It's true. And warnings about, and this is what Philip Goodwin, the preacher in Mystery Dreams, gets to, is like how to not be tricked by the folks that are just out for their own gain. They want your money. They want to control you. How to tell the difference. And I think he does a wonderful job of kind of explaining that from a Christian perspective. It's fantastic. So hopefully that
just so your audience will know, Ben hasn't asked me for any money. He hasn't given me the link to his Cash App. He told me he would interpret the dream I had a couple of weeks ago for free. So I don't think he's out for your money.
I never mentioned
that.
For
what it's worth, if you'll take it from this old deceiver, Elijah Ware, for what it's worth.
No, I ain't going to lie. I want to sell some books. They're out there. I hope you love them. And I want to get monetized on YouTube. But I don't charge people money. I'm not setting up shady deals in the background or manipulating folks. This is all what you see is what you get on the level. And I that's my ethical constraints for folks. So, okay, we're a few minutes. I think everyone's been fascinated by this. the whole thing. I don't think any of it was wasted time, but I know folks are here for the dream.
So
we're going to get into it as per my usual process. I'm going to just shut up and listen. We're going to go through the whole thing beginning to end, and then we're going to get into it together and see if we can put together something that makes sense.
Okay.
So ready when you are. Yeah.
Well, this dream that, by the way, Ben invited me on, as you all know. I normally don't even give my own dreams a lot of attention, because I just don't have the gift to interpret them. I know they all mean something because everything has a meaning, because everything is a reflection of the creator. But I tend to just let them go. And I want to apologize to being on air because I promised him that we would link up before the end of 2021. And then I ended up having a procedure. So I told him, well, the next time firstly, I told him I don't think I would be of any use to him because being a metaphysical teacher, I don't know how we will connect. And he said, well, just come on and if you got a dream, I'll share it and then we can talk about whatever you want. So I said, all right. And so I said, let me get myself a dream together here and then I'll call you when I do or email you when I do. So this particular dream that I had was a couple of weeks ago. And I don't remember, as far as I know, much about it. I know Ben said that sometimes he's able to help people remember more than what they think they remember. But with this particular dream, it was involving someone that I don't know, that I've never met. I don't particularly watch her show, but it was involving Judith Shineland, who is a judge on television that everybody knows as Judge Judy. And in this particular dream that I had, it was very short, or what I remember of it is very short. We were in a building and people were trying to escape this building. And I was walking by her and she said to me, can you help me get out of this window? And I went over to her and she already had the part of the window that was glass pushed open. Now, the odd thing about it is that normally when it comes to windows, you only find windows with screens when it comes to apartments and homes, personal dwelling places. You don't see a lot of windows with screens in buildings. But this window had a screen behind it. And so she had already pulled the glass part back, as I said, and she said she didn't have the strength to push the screen part of the window open. So I told her, sure, I'll push it open for you. Meanwhile, the people behind us were running back and forth trying to escape, and many of them didn't know how to escape. I knew instinctively that she felt that she was being smarter than the others by trying to open this window. She said she wasn't going to try to do what any of them were doing. She didn't speak these words, but I knew it intuitively that this is how she felt. So she wasn't high enough just to get out of the window on her own. There was a bench right there that she kind of almost looked like a bench that was covered with material. I can't think of the words what I'm trying to say right now, but it wasn't a bench that was made out of wood. It was a soft bench made out of cloth, like almost an ottoman type bench or something. And so I pushed it open for her and she said, thank you so much. I never seen her go out the window. I don't know where I went after that, but that's the only part of the dream that I recall.
Okay, I'm catching up with my writing here. All right. Yeah, and there you go. So what the dream description took, 2 minutes, 2.5, something like that. And that's usually what we get. That is not too short, not too long. I mean, I've had some people go on for about 10 minutes. Perfectly fine also. Or I've had people go on for just about 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And we've got enough. We got something to start with. And that's perfectly fine. And that gives me the, for some folks watching, you've probably seen the channels. I've got my little teaser trailer show I put out, say, on Tuesdays, and that's just the dream. So that's the description people get in the little kind of teaser trailer saying, watch out, episode's coming.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got a kind of 3-part process, and part 2 and part 3 kind of blend together. So step 1 is listen. You always got to listen. You want to understand someone, listen to them. Shut up and listen. So that's always my first step. And then part 2, I go back and I start asking questions. I call it kind of the deep dive. And we try and I try and see what you see as much as I possibly can. And then that tends to blend into part 3, which is let's tell a story about it. Let's put it together and find out what it actually means. And that's always, in my estimation, has got to be a collaborative process. This is not something where I just tell the dreamer this is what it means. That's why I don't lean into the dream book style of thing where I dreamed of a crab on a beach. Well, beaches mean this and crabs mean this, and you put them together and it always means that. Again, not wagging my finger at anyone. You like that, that's your thing, that's fine, but not how I work. So okay, enough rambling on from me. No, so you're in a building. So if you were to kind of put yourself back in that visual experience, were you in any particular kind of identifiable building? Like you could tell it's a department store because there's a bunch of clothes racks around. Is it a business office?
It was a corporate building.
Okay.
I know it had gray carpet and white walls, and there were plants here and there, tall plants here and there, trees, here and there not trees, but long, plants that were rather big, maybe fake trees that in the building.
Gotcha. And did you get the sense you were in a first floor lobby area, or
no?
What are the kind of physical structures?
We were up either on the second or third floor. It felt like.
Was there any kind of cubicles or desks or any other kind of physical objects?
I couldn't see that. We were in a hallway, and people were running behind us back and forth, trying to escape.
So there was actually people kind of moving back and forth, and it was in this hallway that there was the bench and the window and Judge Judy. So when you first say appeared in the dream setting, you're already in the hallway. Your brain says, let's start right here. You're in the thick of it. This is happening.
Correct.
Go. Okay.
Correct.
Would you say the hallway was really wide, 20 feet, 10 feet?
It was a very wide hallway. It almost looked like an airport hall, like that type of hallway that was just really wide. Not quite that wide, but it wasn't a short, narrow hallway. It wasn't something where if the person was passing by you wouldn't be able to reach out and necessarily and feel them, depending on how close to it were. If they were walking in the middle of the hallway, yeah. But if they were walking to the left and you were walking to the right, you wouldn't have been you could have tossed something to them. You could have played a little catch in the hallway. Yeah.
Gotcha. And did you get a sense of how many total people there were?
I remember seeing this image of this tall black man keeps coming to my mind with a blue tie, maybe my complexion, maybe a black jacket on. But he's the only one that keeps coming directly into my mind, but I can't see his facial features. I just know that he's tall, my complexion, he's very tall, much taller. He's got to be 6'7". And, he's skinny, and he's running as well with the other people.
Okay. That's the next thing I was going to ask you is what was he doing? But that was the one moving figure you kind of keyed in on and were able to give a description of. The other people more blurred, so to speak. You knew they were people, you knew they were moving, but you couldn't say she was in a skirt, he was wearing a cowboy hat.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
And then the total quantity of people, we're talking 5 or 10, 1,000, somewhere in between,
maybe
right?
20 people passing back and forth.
Okay.
It was a crowd of folks going back and forth, trying to escape. They were frantically trying to escape.
Any sense, first thing comes to mind, what are they running from? Escape what?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what was wrong. I don't know if somebody was shooting in the building. I don't know if there was a fire. I don't know. I just know they were panicked.
Okay.
And Judy was panicked. Yeah.
Right. And that's its own type of thing. So this is where I start going with my process, is asking these different questions. So we look at the iconography, specific type of building, corporate building. Not in a boardroom, not in the cubicle worker area, in a hallway, not on the first floor, second floor. We're starting to get kind of a picture of these different, why this thing in this shape at that place. We don't have answers yet, but that why is going through my head. Okay. Why did you see that one guy out of all of them? Why 20 people and not 2? I go with those things. And what brought this to mind was the idea that in your mind, this is what I tell people too. Don't feel bad. I ask you a question, you can't answer it. You know something or you don't. You can't do this wrong. Only
Okay.
I can get my questions wrong. Which, if it gets us where we're going, I'm happy with that. Well, okay. Long story short on that. Not a specific cause. You do not know if the building was on fire, active shooter, that kind of thing. So your brain is saying, in this setting, panic for an unknown reason. Just the idea of people being panicked. In a sense, the reason doesn't matter because your brain didn't supply it as a part of the equation, so to speak. So that's why it's never bad to ask a question. You go, I don't know. Not knowing something may be just as relevant as seeing something specific. Yeah, that's why I love that stuff. So, it seems like the sequence of events is usually important in this as well. So it was kind of it sets the stage for you. It lets you know what's going on. All of this is happening before you notice there's a window and there's a Judge Judy trying to get out of it. So what was that awareness process like? Like, at what point did you kind of become aware? Did your vision rotate over, or just suddenly you're standing next to her?
As I was passing by, I know that I was calm. I wasn't worried about dying, but these other people were fearful of dying, and she was fearful of dying. I don't know if she stopped me because she could see that I was calm. I wasn't running, I was walking.
Okay. So you were in motion as well, walking, but not panicked. Okay.
And she, as I passed by, as you would see somebody pass by, she stopped me and said, "Excuse me, sir, can you help me open this window?"
And you have obviously, her face, you probably heard her voice, and it's her in the dream, and it was delivered in her in her tone, like it sounded like her in the
tone
dream.
Was not panicked. She seemed frustrated, perhaps, as she could not open the window, but she didn't seem to be manic or anything like that. She just needed help opening the window.
My what I'm wondering in terms of like her tone, like maybe ask the question in a bad way, but like she could have an excuse me, agitated, condescending type of.
No.
But this was more. She was
said,
legitimately polite.
Yeah, she said, "Oh, excuse me, sir. Can you help?" She was very monotone and polite about it.
And
it wasn't like, you better help me open this window, or, get over here and help me open this window. Can't you see who I am?
No tone of command or self-importance.
Okay. Yeah, no, it wasn't that.
Good deal. So you were just kind of walking by. If you had to describe which way you were walking and where she was in relation to that, like were you walking this way and she's on your right hand side and she stops you?
So I'm walking south and she's on the right of me.
Looking at it in my head, what's facing south? She would be technically to the
like
west.
Where your chair is, she would be to the right of me. But I'd already passed her, so.
And she kind of called you back.
Let's see, maybe where that case is behind you. I'm walking south, and she's over there where the case is, and she turns around and sees me and calls out to me, and says, "Hey, excuse me, sir." I'd already passed her though, so I had to turn around and come back.
That's interesting.
But I wasn't far from her.
Yeah.
Just a few steps.
You hadn't gone out of range. She wasn't screaming for help. You had to run back down the hallway. But rather than say you noticing her first, maybe you did notice her, but she didn't interact with you before you had already walked past.
I didn't notice her until she called out to me.
Until she called out. There you go. That's interesting too. So why? I don't know. But I think that's going to be a relevant part of it too. So where would I go with something like that? Just to plant seeds and percolate some ideas. There's something about, it's not, you were not looking for her. You weren't even aware of her until she made her presence known by requesting your help with something. So there's something in that dynamic. I don't know what yet, but something just kind of let it float in your head for when we kind of call back around there. So when you heard her, did you have any reaction to it, like annoyance at being disrupted, you're on your own business,
No,
or any
I
emotions at
honestly
all?
look. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Ben. I
No,
didn't mean to
go
cut
ahead.
you off. No. No. To me, in my mind, she was just an older lady that needed help.
So if you had to describe your kind of emotional response to being approached, does anything come to mind? Or
Nothing distinctive. It was just like, oh, sure, let me help you.
there,
Let me try and help you.
what am I trying to say? There's kind of a so there was no maybe strong emotional reaction to it,
No,
neither
no, I wasn't
positive nor
angry. I
negative.
wasn't annoyed. I wasn't feeling like I'm trying to get out of here. What do you want? It was just
Yeah,
like, if somebody asked you to, can you open this jar for me?
gotcha.
Sure. That it was like that.
Yeah, and but there was also another feeling in there, a feeling of not obligations, maybe the wrong word, but like a willingness to help, like it's the right thing to do, type of thing.
Sure,
It was a
sure,
feeling
because
like
I
that.
felt like she was an older lady that needed help.
Gotcha. And then how did you? Was she dressed in her judge robes or not?
No, no, she had on like a black business casual jacket. Very nice, but it was like maybe something you buy at Lane Bryant or something like that. Just a kind of a nice black casual business jacket. Something, it wasn't a suit jacket. It was just like something you wear to the park on if were in business casual attire, go to Central Park in a chilly day.
Yeah.
It wasn't a suit jacket or
Okay.
a women's business jacket. It was just like not a windbreaker. It was more fancier than that, much more fancier than that. But it was like went down to like her knee, not her knee, maybe a little bit above her knees to her thighs. You know,
Okay.
yeah.
And so that's interesting too. She's not in the iconic judge's robe
No,
of her
no, unless you knew who
famous
she was.
persona. She was just
Mm-mm.
this. So there's something in there too, and this that I made another little carrot. Lots of little things to go back and talk about, but there's something in there of this is a particular type of person known for a particular type of thing, but she's out of that element. She's not there as Judge Judy. She's more there as
Mm-mm.
just Judy the Shineland trying to get out of the building like everybody else is. There's more of a less of a famous persona representation and more of a humanized version of just the person who plays the role of Judge Judy on TV.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, in the dream, to be honest with you, Ben, she wasn't famous. I didn't, I mean, it was only after waking up and remembering her face that I said it was Judge Judy. She was just a normal person in the dream. She was not Judge Judy in the dream. I didn't
Yeah.
recognize her as Judge Judy in the dream.
Yeah, I think that says something too. And so where do I go with those kind of things? Just a little teaser for
Mm-hmm.
in a few minutes from now when we kind of come back around. But there is always a real human being inside of the public persona people see about us, and whether this dream is really about her or some idea that represents itself in that icon. So this type of person, but just a real person, not their
Mm-hmm.
persona, but the real them underneath that, and how you would say respond to them in an emergency situation, how you would feel about being asked for help. So there's all these kind of things connecting in there. We don't know what they mean yet.
Mm-hmm.
Very soon, very soon. But I love that stuff. Get inspired. And so, at what point would you say you became aware she was standing on the bench first, or how she was dressed and her appearance in the window? What was the order of kind of seeing those elements become
That I
clear to
don't
you?
remember.
Might have happened all at once.
Yeah, it seemed like um, I don't know. I don't remember if the bench was next to her or if she was standing on the bench, to be honest. But I just saw the bench right by her. But I don't. We were at neck and neck level, so she wasn't standing on something above me. She wasn't on a bench, but there was a bench
Okay.
there by
Okay.
the window.
And she wasn't using it though. She wasn't standing on
No,
it to get. It didn't need to stand on it to get out the window. Like the window wasn't
no, the window
higher.
was like right there where she was, but I was standing. Um, I see the bench, but I can't. I mean, honestly, I can't tell if because I'm looking directly at her face. She's not standing above me. I mean,
Okay,
she's a very short woman, but even if, she was standing on a bench, she'd be a lot taller than me.
gotcha.
So we were kind of face to face when I walked over to her and
Okay.
started to help her open the window.
And that's interesting. I see. This is why I go through my process too and ask all these clarifying questions. You describe Judge Judy trying to get out a window and there's a bench, and I'm thinking immediately standing on it. She's not. She's not. I need to know that. Why do I need to know it? I'm not sure, but it changes my vision of the scene, my ability to kind of see what you're seeing at that moment.
Yeah, no, she definitely wasn't
But
standing on it.
but then an interesting question. It was not being used for the purpose of leaving. Why was it there? I mean, you saw potted plants. Why were they there? It could mean nothing more than, well, sometimes there's a bench in the hallway of these business buildings. But it was made of like a fabric covered, like an ottoman type of deal, like more of a
Yeah, so
comfortable
it wasn't a
seat.
business bench. Yeah, and it was red
Mm,
with design on it, gold design on it. I can't tell what type of design, what it was, but it would have gold stitching on it, and the bench was a deep red, like almost a burgundy.
interesting. And was anyone anywhere interacting with it at all, or is just kind of just sitting
It
there,
was
real,
just
real
right there by
close?
her.
Okay, that's interesting too. That's a very, it would mean maybe something else if it was a light pastel floral print and very, very comfy, homey looking. But this had I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, you can tell me if it resonates or not, but is red's got a lot of association with gold, but red and gold it makes me think royalty or some kind of important,
Mm,
some object of importance, or an object that an important person might have. Something that
perhaps,
speaks of
yeah.
wealth or not opulence necessarily, but okay, the word importance keeps coming to mind. Would you characterize it in any
Yeah,
way?
the weird thing about it, and this is not going to make any sense. I felt like it was her bench,
Hmm.
like it was hers in this building. Like it didn't belong to the building. It wasn't a building. It was her bench, and it was just happened to be in the building right next to her. I didn't feel like this was a normal bench to be in the building. It just kind of, it's weird. It kind of just felt like, oh, that was her bench. Maybe she was sitting on it before. I don't know. Because when I saw her, she was standing up trying to get out the window, but the bench was right next to her. But it wasn't a normal bench. And I felt like that was hers. Like it was part of property that, a piece of furniture that she owned.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why that's I grab. So some people might have said, "Okay, it was a bench, move on," and not even asked about it. But it felt important to me. It felt like it's. I mean, you saw it for a reason. Like you saw that man walking by, the only person you could really identify visually and
You
give
know
a
what it
description
looked
of.
like?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what it looked like now? It looked like a piano bench where the
Oh,
wood sticks out, and it was dark wood, and there was red. The seat part of it was red, almost burgundy with gold stitches. That's what it looked like. It looked like a piano bench.
nice. And then it's got that kind of gold
Hmm.
enhancement around
Where
it.
you would sit at, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. A red colored with gold stitching piano bench, and it belonged to her. This is what is this adding up to? Hell if I know, not yet. But there's something about that, and that's there's judges rule from the bench. That's a
True.
phrase we would hear, and that jumped into my head too. Of like, so this there's definitely a connection there of like, but it's not the bench you see them behind
Mm-mm.
on television or in a courtroom. It's a different kind of thing. It's actually more. I mean, it's piano bench. It's inclined towards music, towards creativity. It's got a but there's this importance to it. You've given it this red regal almost something valuable that's with you there. Again, no idea what it means, not yet. But all of these connections with say an important person or someone of competence or skill or
Hmm.
something along those lines.
Sure.
Um, so when you became aware of her, she calls out to you. You have this response of, "Oh, here's a nice older lady needs my help. I'm gonna do what I do. I'm gonna help people," and you kind of become aware of the bench and her at the same time. Didn't quite make that connection till afterwards of who she was. And you saw at that time that she got glass part open, but she was having trouble with the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of, if you would, maybe without me put words in your mouth, describe that interaction from kind of her calling out to you and then becoming aware of the screen? Did she say anything else, or what do you got on
No, well, one thing that I recall very, very vividly, which keeps coming to my mind, is her hair and her face, because she was younger, like when she first got on the air, and she kind of had her hair like in, well, I think they call it a bob, and she had makeup on. Wasn't, plattered on, but she had a little lipstick on, and her cheeks were a little rosy, not overly, just lightly. Like she was just going to the doctor for, went, left the house business casual, had her jacket on, and your little daily jacket that a woman would wear if she's running errands. I know she had on flats, black flats. She was very business casual. I keep seeing her with those small hoop earrings. Very big. Her hair was like a brownish, kind of like the way she used to wear it when she first got on the air. She looked very much like that. She didn't look older. She looked kind of more like the way she did in the early 90s when she first came on the air. Okay. Not quite that young, but maybe about 10 years younger than she is now.
All right. Interesting. So this iconic representation of Judge Judy is specifically, so all of these details, they could each mean something individually. They could be referencing people or, the hoop earrings might mean something specific, or the bob haircut might. What I'm looking at and what feels the most relevant to me is this idea of, imagine it's her, it's this person but it's her at the beginning of her career. Maybe, and the thought that came to my mind was, maybe at that point of her career, you had a more positive response to her than you do now. Like you felt better about her. You liked her more. You enjoyed what she did. And now lately it's like, she's not the same person anymore. Now she's someone I don't much care for.
Yeah. What do you think? It's funny you should say that, because I don't know her, never met her. I remember a couple of years ago, a friend of mine was watching her, and I said, she's so mean to people. How do you sit there and watch her? I know people just think she's America's, sweetheart. And I don't know her. Maybe she's a sweet lady, but I find her to be very condescending at times. And some of her judgments when I used to watch her show, were kind of harsh, and she said that couldn't happen and that couldn't happen. And I said, well, actually that could happen. And, and it didn't seem like she was just using the law. It seemed like it was more entertainment for her at that point. When she first came on, she wasn't as big. So I don't think that kind of ego that she has developed now was there. She did seem to be a little bit more, yes, she's always been maybe no nonsense, but not as theatrical. To me, I just see her as very theatrical now. Unfeeling, not a whole lot of compassion for people, just more about entertainment. And, I did have the feeling that, to me, she just wants to stay on the bench. Because I asked somebody when I heard that she left, I said, why didn't she go and retire? They said, I don't know. And just casual conversations with friends. And I said, well, it seems like to me that, in this life, man wants riches, but he also wants authority and power. And maybe that show gives her a sense of authority and power that she doesn't want to let go of. Because she's made enough money, to me, that most people would say, let me go live my life. And not that she should have to retire, but to me, I see that as just a desire to hang on to power, the little sense of authority and power that as I feel like she represents society in that aspect. Money's not good enough. I want money in a sense of power over others. But again, I didn't think about all that in the dream, because she wasn't Judge Judy in the dream. She was just, I knew her name. I knew who she was, but I didn't have the same thoughts towards that woman as I would if she came up on the TV. It's like, oh goodness, let me turn, because she's going to start acting crazy. Yeah. I know she fancies herself to be so much different than the people in front of her, but I don't see her as any different.
Oh,
I really don't.
we got our first visitor.
Yeah,
Don't
he
you
feels
walk
the
on the
same way I do. He's relating,
right?
or
Don't
she's
you walk
relating,
on the
boy or
keyboard?
girl.
Yeah, this is a girl. This is our baby girl. Well, short story. We had years ago when we first got her as a tiny kitten. Our
Hmm.
niece was like 2 or 3 years old, and she loved
Hmm.
Justin Bieber. And one of her
Hmm.
first words was "baby, baby." And so
Hmm.
she looked at this one and she said, "Oh, baby," and we said,
Oh, how
"That's her
cute,
name."
cute, cute, cute.
and,
That's
and she's
wonderful.
been baby girl ever since. But you don't walk on my keyboard. You don't walk on my keyboard. Oh, she's pushing buttons. No, she's walking on
And
the
you know
mouse.
the funny thing with Judge Judy
Still recording. Okay.
is that I've
You got to
always
go. I love
seen
you.
her as someone who cares more for animals than she does for human beings.
Oh.
She's very sympathetic. If you've ever listened to her cases, because I would work from home back in the day and watch her show, and she's if you say you did something to an animal, she's very sympathetic. But with human beings, I never saw her having a whole lot of compassion. I understand sometimes people come in, your room with the court with a whole lot of nonsense, but with animals, oh, very sympathetic. Dogs, things like that, especially dogs.
Oh, yeah.
But with people, not a whole lot of compassion.
Yeah, and that's interesting too. So, and talk about what let's call it what it is, or what it could be, divine inspiration. Cat jumps up, and this inspires you to think of Judge Judy in relation to her sense of expressing compassion, specifically towards animals, and that led you to the idea of where did you get your exposure to her? And it was during this period of your life when you were working from home and you would, hey, turn on her show. You enjoyed it more back then. So this even representation of her might have even been, think about that time in your life when you used to watch Judge Judy and
Mm-hmm.
how you felt better about her at the time. You enjoyed it more, perhaps. Because sometimes we want people to, let's see, what is it? What is the draw for her? I don't think people are malicious. I don't think people want to watch her be mean so much as they
Some
want.
people do, I think,
Some
Ben.
people do, but there's also kind of a little bit of a. It's not a Schadenfreude where you're like,
Well, it's kind of a sense of they can't get over on her.
yes,
There's no
yes, you're not pulling
BS.
that bullshit here, and I'm going to call you on it. And people are like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
she got him. She said it to their face.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
satisfaction in that. It was like people getting real justice in terms of your bullshit ain't gonna fly here. So there's
yeah,
something, and then you lean into that too much. You go with the ego and the self-importance and the lust for power, or whatever, and that very easily goes into, I'm just gonna be mean because that's what my audience wants, and
yeah,
I feel crabby today. I'm gonna take it out on someone. That's
yeah,
not
yeah,
helping anybody.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's when I would kind of like, and the way people
All
would
right.
praise her for it. And I think when I was thinking about her that week, it was because of what I had seen. Because YouTube, I don't know why YouTube even, but they were talking about Bird and the way that she did him, and I thought that.
She loves her butt scratched. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. You were talking about her bailiff, right? And this
Yeah,
was this on your mind during this week?
well, the week that I had the dream,
Yeah.
and the way that she had just kind of cut him out, and I don't know him, don't know him from Adam. He's a black man as I am. I didn't think it was a race thing.
Stay off that
but
keyboard.
but I just thought it was kind of messed up that after spending 20 years with this man, I was like, that just strikes me as something that she would do,
Yeah.
as, not even asking the man, would you like to come? It's her show. She has a right to do it. But this was just something, like I said, it was my mother, my uncle, and I were looking at television also. And I think it came up on Entertainment Tonight or one of those shows where, they were asking her, why didn't you ask this man to be a part of your show? And again, the first time I seen it, it was on YouTube. They suggested, this video, oh, Judge Judy not doing a new show without Bird or Vela. And then we also saw it when we were downstairs. My uncle was over here on the weekend, and we saw it on one of the weekend entertainment shows where, oh, she, and they went into it a little bit more. And that's when my mother, my uncle, and I, we were all having a conversation about, that's kind of messed up. Why wouldn't she ask him? Blah, blah, blah. So it was
Yeah.
those two. Most of the time, this woman doesn't even cross my mind. So I just thought it was, like I
Just
said,
suddenly
weird.
brought it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that's enough to make you change what might have been if you got that, you're right on the dividing line between things. And you'd say, you know, I used to enjoy her show more and her calling people on their bullshit, and maybe I would still like her if she hadn't done her bailiff like that. There's no loyalty there. I mean, she's become a different person. That's not someone you can respect or enjoy watching anymore. So there's that's a big thing. There's a tipping point for a lot of people, and you gotta make that judgment sometimes and say, I lost respect. I can't, not with this. Yeah, and all of that is on your mind at the time, and that's all kind of feeding into this situation. And so it was, she's got this open. How did she, like, was it immediately obvious to you that she was struggling specifically with the screen? Or did she mention it?
It wasn't obvious to me. She just asked me if I could help her with the screen. I didn't pay her any attention when I walked by her.
Yeah.
She just said, "Excuse me, sir," and then I came back over. And I opened the screen for her. She didn't say anything when I walked over. She just looked at me. She turned to me and looked at me, and I was looking at her. And then I remember seeing my hands on the metal part, the bottom part of the screen, to push it open. I never saw her go out of it. I don't know where she went. I don't know where I went after that.
Okay, that's an interesting experience too. So it wasn't that she said, "Excuse me, sir, can you help me? I need help with this screen." She didn't say that. Nor did you kind of have an experience.
Well, she did say it when I walked by her, and she turned around and she said, "Excuse me, sir, can you help me open this?" I knew, that she was trying to get it open. But when I walked over to her, she didn't say anything. Gotcha. She just stood. Okay. She just stood there and let me open it for her.
So there was kind of now, did she say the word screen, or you just kind of, when you assessed the situation, you saw, oh, that's what she's having trouble with?
I don't think in my memory that she said the word screen. I think she just said, "Can you help me open this?" And I knew that she was trying to push it open.
And you look at it and the glass is already open. It must be the screen. There's a logical connection there. Gotcha. Yeah. I just didn't know, kind of looking at what's the sequence of events in the dream showing to you. So there's an experience of, you can immediately assess the situation, see where the problem is, and honestly know what to do about it, because you looked at her, and then the next thing you knew, the next experience of the dream was your hands are already in motion solving the problem. Mm-hmm. So that's a good kind of iconography to think of. And it was, so the window kind of slid sideways or up, the glass part?
No, it slid side. The glass was already pushed sideways.
And then
she was just trying to pop the screen open.
And then you just kind of, how did you pop it out?
I took my two thumbs. I remember seeing them, and there were two little metal pieces down at the bottom that you had to pop open. That's what she couldn't get open. Gotcha. I popped it open for her.
That's interesting too, because let's say you could have just shoved your hand right through it and the whole thing flies out and it wrecks.
But I don't remember actually opening it. I just remember pushing it, but I didn't see it open.
Yeah, and there's this experience of, there's a way to, say, gently, safely remove the screen from the window with using those little clips. And that's like, right. How many people know that? Maybe a lot, but not everybody. And certainly not people that have never tried to replace a screen or pop it out for any reason, to run an electric cord out there to go do whatever, So there's something about doing this process correctly in a way that gets the job done and it doesn't destroy the screen. I mean, people running and screaming, you think it's an emergency, you don't even waste time with it, but you're gonna do it right. It gets the job done. You're not wasting any time. You're not hindering the escape process by doing it the right way. There's something in that, about that careful application of skill. Popped out with the tangs. All right. And then that's pretty much when you woke up. Like you get to that act of, I am opening the window the proper way, woke up. Well, this is usually what happens. Dream takes like 2 minutes, and the rest of it takes like a half an hour to go back through it on the deep dive. But we get a lot of these, so much stuff to talk about. Okay, before I fill your head with anything, I've already thrown out some ideas, but as we're going through that, any of the descriptions I helped you kind of explain a little clearer, any of the stuff I threw out there as possibilities, and any kind of meaning suggesting itself to you before I even try and say anything?
No, I can't say it does, man.
Not right off the bat. No coherent story. Just pop. Came to mind. Fair enough. It doesn't always happen, but I mean, I wouldn't be doing this right if I didn't at least ask and try to let people have their own conclusions. So there were a lot of different things, and I mentioned some of them as we were going, but all these different little highlight here, highlight there. So you've put yourself in a corporate building. This wasn't this wasn't a Walmart. This wasn't a fire station. It wasn't literally an airport, even if the hallway was wide like an airport. So there's something your brain is saying about the business world, the corporate business world specifically. And you've got these panicking people inside.
On how greedy I think they are. Yeah, that may be.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. Corporate and greed. Yeah. And the idea that you've got them panicking in your mind. So there's this panic in the setting of a corporate hallway. People are trying to escape. They're fleeing. They're getting out of this.
I'm sorry, Ben. Hold on.
Oh, go ahead. You still look good on my end. But you take all the time you need. Yeah. I'll take a sip of my coffee
Okay. I don't know what's going on. There we go. Okay. I got you.
You lost your view, but you were never lost on my screen. So we're good.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right, so there we go. Okay.
Yeah, so I was trying to kind of call attention to that idea of the setting that you put that in. That kind of gives us sometimes it gives us a starting place to move from. But in this dream specifically, the whole thing takes place in this one tiny area. You're not marching across a long journey of 40 years across the wilderness, which some dreams are. It's everything in this one little moment in this context of people escaping from a corporate environment in a panic. When you think of that general idea, does anything come to mind? Greed came to mind.
I think that whole scenario, it reminds me of the Titanic. And I often talk about that, just metaphysically speaking, where it doesn't matter how much money you have, the rich, the poor, the middle class, we're all on that boat. And when they hit that iceberg, didn't matter if your name was Vanderbilt or if you joined one of the Adams or whoever you were, or Astors, you were going down. Whether there were a lot more of the rich got off the boat, of course, but there was just as many that died. Just like the poor on the lower deck and on the middle deck. And one of the things that I remember about one specific show with Judge Judy that I thought was so kind of cold was that this gentleman, this white gentleman, was on disability, and she grilled him about collecting a check from the government, and almost questioned if he was really disabled. And I thought to myself, this was several years ago, how dare you grill this man who says that he's disabled and can't work, but all your friends on Wall Street that you and your husband party down in Florida with, you have no issue with all the greed that's there. And this man is probably getting a couple of $1,000s a month from Social Security and disability. And you act like it's your job to make sure he's not, as she says, robbing the government and taxpayers. But all your friends that get away with not paying taxes, and you and your lifestyle, you see, and the little taxes that I'm sure you try to make sure that you can pay with your lawyers, you have no problem with that. But this poor man that's barely making it, you act like he's committing some sin. And the man was disabled. She knew about as much as I knew as about the man being disabled. But I would notice that whenever people would come in there, her courtroom, and it was anything like that, she would get very, are you defrauding the government? And just very elitist to me.
Yeah, that's what I was getting that feeling too, like looking down on people.
Yeah. So that's so maybe that's why the corporate building was there and they were running frantic, because I feel like eventually that whole tower is going to fall. It's going to fall, and people are going to be running frantic, you see.
Yeah.
Not only that, I was sharing with someone the other day, I said, you look at a lot of these politicians, and I don't talk a lot about politics in my metaphysics because that's not my role. But of course, as an American citizen, I do have my thoughts. And you look at a lot of these politicians and I don't believe that people should just sit on welfare and collect a check. I think that welfare is okay as a start, but you shouldn't rest there. If you need help, you get yourself some help, but you shouldn't pass on welfare like it's a legacy or an estate.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a healthy balance. But I was saying to myself, to a friend of mine the other day, that it's amazing how a lot of these politicians do things that are so self-centered and self-aggrandizing, that's not for the people. And they call themselves Christians and people who believe in God, many of them, and they act like there is no God that they will have to answer to. There is no higher power or no higher source or supreme being that they will ever have to listen to or explain themselves to. They call themselves, and the ones who are the least compassionate tend to be the ones who call themselves Christians the most often.
Yeah. And all of this related to that imagery of the corporate environment, the panic in the corporate environment, Titanic like. And I was getting a lot of ideas in my head in relation to that. Is one of it was, yeah, that condescension, that elitist condescension down to I'm better than you and sitting in judgment of you, and what are you, just a useless eater type of thing. But also the hypocrisy of it too is, I care so much, I'm going to come down on you harder than these other people that are doing probably a lot worse stuff, and being worse people. And the idea of like a false display. I mean, that's where we get the idea of a hypocrite, is saying one thing for your public image and you're doing something completely different. You're not walking like you talk it. And it's very self.
I mean, this is very much just this sense being of, I'm not going to let these takers get over on our tax dollars. And very much so, when I have seen her in interviews back in the day, she would kind of have, I forget the name of the interview. I watched it. Bill Maher has done it. She has done it. Other notable people have done it over in England. Oxford will invite people over and do a sit down interview. I don't know if you've ever seen some celebrities.
I've seen a couple of those. Yeah.
Yeah, she did one. And because I watched them, I used to watch them quite a bit. I don't know if Trevor Noah did one, but I think Meryl Streep did one. Like, a lot of celebrities will go over there and do a sit down at Oxford and let the students ask them questions. And so at this time, several years ago, I saw the one that she did. And she very much she said to this gentleman, it's almost like takers just want to keep taking. If you give them a little, they just want to keep taking. It's never enough. And I thought to myself, ma'am, you found wealth later on in life.
Yeah.
You and your husband were maybe making 60, 70 grand a year. And now all of a sudden you're partying at private clubs in Palm Beach. You got your estate in Florida and your estate in New York and all of that. But, now it's kind of like, I'm above you, and you people are takers. And all you want is to take my tax dollars that I've earned, and live off of them, so that you don't have to get up every day and go to work. And I thought, wow. And how soon we forget.
Something just came to my mind too. It's almost like people who are genuinely superior. And I mean that in terms of like, man, they got an unbelievable skill and they know it and they do it well. They're very often more comfortable being just chill, being just normal people. And they're often very humble too, of like, I appreciate the praise and I just do what I do. That's more of but then there's a different type of person that they're not comfortable in their position. Like they don't feel even on the inside like they deserve it. And so they lean into it in a way that dismisses people that they perceive as beneath them. But it's like this, it's like they're being false with themselves too. It's like I have to convince myself I deserve this or I'm worthy of it by making other people, putting other people in a lower position.
It's, and it's part of the reason that I stopped. I used to watch Wendy Williams' show, just to keep up with entertainment back in the day. I haven't really watched it in a long time. And she's a huge Judge Judy fan. And the reason I stopped watching her show was the same reason I stopped watching Judge Judy's show. It's this meanness to people, this finding pleasure in just being cruel towards people and like you're so beneath me, because you've made mistakes in life and all of this. You're so beneath my pedigree. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm not watching this show anymore because it's just so condescending
Yeah. Once you
and
see
so
that,
and people rude. Now, if they were to get in front of her, or if Wendy Williams were to talk about them like that, they wouldn't have liked it. If they were to get in front of Judge Judy and she came down on them, they wouldn't have liked it. But to me, there's this cruelness that I'm like, there's no compassion there.
yeah, that's what I was taking notes, and she came and she's rubbing on my
It's
rubbing on
okay.
my fan. I know.
She she,
Value added
she
content.
agrees. She agrees. I'm telling you,
She
she's got
does.
something to say.
She does. Well, and what was coming to my mind when you were saying that is the idea of like, how do you know if something's tough love, which sometimes we need, or cruelty? I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things where people are cruel and they mask it in tough love, and there's sometimes when tough love feels cruel because you are honestly telling someone something hurtful, but it's honestly for their own good. And I mean, I don't know that I have an answer there, but it seems like there's a distinction a lot of us feel. We can kind of tell
Yeah, yeah.
this is not for my good. This
Yeah,
you're
and there was times when I think Judge Judy is very correct, and there were times when I thought Wendy Williams was very correct, but I didn't see it as love in a lot of ways.
yeah,
There's another judge on TV named Judge Lynn Toler, a black lady. Now, a lot of what she does, she's a bit younger than Judge Judy, but to me, a lot of what she does is tough love. Marilyn Milian, tough love. I really like her show, younger lady. And so the judges that do the three bench show, I like them. I think there's a compassionate, let me tell you what you don't want to hear. Let me give you a wisdom, or somebody needs to tell you the truth, and the only time you see certain ones of them really getting an attitude is when people lie to them outright. But
yeah,
I really don't. The odd thing is I don't even watch a lot of these court shows anymore.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I don't know why Judge Judy came into my mind. I don't know what the thing
yeah.
was about.
There's
But I don't
something
want to
going on,
keep
and
lingering because people are probably like, "Boy, he has a thing with TV judges." I don't watch them
it's
anymore.
all related. We're getting real deep into this, which is we're gonna a lot of it is related to you're not obsessed with this. This is a very small slice of your life that meant something specific, and we're getting deep into it.
Mm-hmm.
Means we're going to talk about the whole concept. What does it mean to be a judge?
Sure.
What does it mean to be what is it, a Solomon style wise judge? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think compassion was, you mentioned that, and that's the first thing came to your mind when I was describing that difference with the cruelty and the tough love. And it is, really trying to come to good, fair solutions, because we all gotta use our best judgment. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people throw the Bible verse, oh, don't judge people. It's like, well, you have to. You gotta judge. Are they good for you? Are they trying to hurt you?
Mm-hmm.
We use our judgment all the time. That doesn't mean being judgmental. There's a lot of different ways to look at that, or looking down on people or being cruel to them. But what you want, you want to see. So there's something. This whole discussion, this iconography of what does it mean to be a good judge, a wise judge, a judge making the right decisions for the right reasons. And so and that's related to, so in the context of, say, the corporate greed, and as you described it, the feeling that there's unsustainable practices that are not for the greater good, or the common interest, or exploitative practices that are going to cause say a collapse of a business enterprise. And in that context, there is a person you say used to like or respect more, you thought maybe was a better person than it looks like they are now. This person in that context needs your help, and you see them more as a person back when you had more respect for them, and you're going to help them escape from this environment. I don't know if telling that story in that way is bringing anything to mind that make you think anything specific, or
Perhaps maybe being a metaphysical teacher, I always tell people that you can't take any of that stuff with you, and everything that you amass, it's like the Titanic; it's all going to go down, and so there's no purpose in you cleaving onto it. You ought to try to find the truth of who you are, why you're here, what your ultimate windup will be, where you come from, and who you are as a soul. Because at the end of the day, you don't get to take the private jet. the Florida mansion, the New York mansion, the country club membership. You know, you don't get to take those things with you. And at the end, source is only identifying with source. If you're still identifying yourself as being something separate with source, then that's almost out of law, out of bounds with universal law, you see, because we are here to know that we are one with source, you see, that yes, we've been given these distinctive personalities, but really we are source individualized. I grew up saying Yahweh. Somebody else might have grown up saying the Lord. Somebody else might have grown up saying Jehovah. But we are source individualized. I think about those people in Afghanistan that were so desperate to try to escape Ben that they were jumping on a plane while it was taking off.
Hanging out of the wheels. Whoa, yeah.
So desperate to try to escape that life, you see, and that's just a shadow. We don't do that because we have pretty decent lives, and America's a great place to live. I tell people that all the time. Even as a Black man, I don't always love it, but I wouldn't want to live anyplace else. You see, it's a flawed country, but you know, it has offered many of us great opportunities. You understand? There's never. Yeah, I tell people all the time. Listen, there's never a hard left or a hard right. The truth is right down the middle. You see, and so. You know, here we don't try to escape as much, but even here in this first world country that we're beneficial enough to be in, you see the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer, you see. And I often, you know, I have a quote that my media assistant is going to post next week that said, the rich are afraid that they will lose. The poor are afraid that they will never gain. Men pray together on Sunday, but they prey on each other on Monday.
Oh,
and that is just the truth of it. Maybe she was realizing that what she had amassed and those that were like her, those corporate workers because they worked there. I didn't mention that. Those weren't just random people in the hallway. They worked there in that corporate environment. And they were all kind of people. The only one I told you, it wasn't just white or Asian. There was a tall Black man, the only one that really stood out to me, although I couldn't see his face.
Yeah, I wanted to get background to him too, because there's a reason you could have not very easily not seen anybody, and it was all blurred faces, people. They're just people. But there was one man there, and you saw him before she asked for help. When you think of him and the bailiff, anything come to mind? Is that any immediate resonance?
He was darker than the bailiff.
Fair enough.
You know that Black art that many African Americans put in their home where the figure is very dark, but they have no face. I can't think of the artist right now. I don't know if you've ever seen it on television. Maybe it would.
If I've seen it, I'd recognize
other people put it in their home too, but a lot of Black folks put it in their home. But it's just, it has no face, it has no eyeballs, no anything like that. This man was like that. He was a tall Black man, but he had no facial features.
Not a
he
specific
had a blue
person.
tie on with a white shirt and a dark gray suit.
Yeah. So he was very much a part of that environment in terms of, you know, presenting himself professionally. He wasn't in a, what do they call it, a dashiki? He was definitely
no,
business.
He was a part of that world too. This frantic running was with everybody, and that was a part of that world, that corporate environment. They were all running frantically, trying to escape.
Yeah. And did you say that he was also jogging, or was he moving like you, more slowly? He was running as well. Okay.
He was running along with everybody else.
You were perfectly comfortable in this thing. Like you knew you were in no danger.
True.
So that's did you get a sense you were part of the environment or just passing through? Any
I was just passing through. I didn't work there. I didn't feel like I worked there.
Whatever the threat was, it was specific to these people belonging to that environment, and it was like you were outside.
I didn't feel like Judge Judy worked there, but she was there. But she was a part of the environment. But she didn't feel like the people running that was actually her job. Maybe because subconsciously I knew that she was a judge. But the other people that were in the building, I felt like they worked there. I was walking by casually while they were, and I was closer to her than the other people. So I was a couple of feet from her, but the others who were running behind her were a little bit further in the middle and to the
Gotcha.
back of
That
her.
feels significant to me too. The idea that you were not sharing in their panic, as if you were present as an outsider. Like whatever was bothering them, whatever had them in a tizzy, you were immune to it in a way. Like it wasn't going to hurt you. You felt no
Right.
threat, no sense of danger in the
Right.
environment. So
Right.
there's something about I want to say looking from the outside in, even though you were on the inside. But it's not sharing the same danger, not sharing the same risk.
Well, almost like
Yeah.
what do you call those places where immigrants can go? Cities where they can go and they won't be deported.
A sanctuary city.
Sanctuary,
Yeah.
like almost like I had immunity in some
Yeah.
ways from.
That's what it felt like to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever the danger was, it wasn't going to hurt you. You were there. It's almost like you were there to observe and what was that movie, Observe and Report? Kind of. But it wasn't going to hurt you. It wasn't going to affect you. You didn't have to worry about it. You're just here.
No, I wasn't running.
You're
No,
here to
I
understand
was just,
more.
Yeah.
Than
yeah,
to
I
suffer
was just
with
walking
them.
by.
Yeah, and there's one thing I was curious about was what point in the week this dream happened in relation to hearing about the bailiff story. Was that before, and then
This was a couple of days after.
couple of days after. So that experience and reflecting on her, having her brought back to your mind, might have directed your attention down a lot of these roads that we're exploring here, with looking at how you can conceptualize, the role of power and authority and judgment in society, and loyalty to people you work with for a long period of people you came up with, and you're not taking them with you to the new job. There's elements of that are coming in saying, now take all of that stuff and imagine it in this form. And then I don't know if is that ringing a bell to you, or are we getting any kind of resonance with that towards something?
Sure. I mean, subconsciousness, it all means something.
For sure.
And so, yeah, that's very possible that after hearing that story and subconsciously thinking in my thoughts about the corporate world, and a lot of the greed there, and kind of seeing her in that role, kind of develop more and more of that role. What made her decide to escape? Now, I don't know. I think they were all trying to escape, so I don't think I don't feel like she realized anything. I know that in the dream, there was no change with her.
She wasn't panicking. And I think you mentioned that, right? She seemed pretty chill, pretty calm.
Well, when I say there was no change, Ben, I mean she didn't have a revelation about anything that she had been a part of prior to. She was very much a part of that world, but there was no thought that I had done wrong, or I'm sorry for what I've done, or I'm sorry the way I looked at things. I think she was just somebody that was trying to escape because she realized that there were going to be consequences, or just in her own soul, or I'm not saying she was going to hell or anything like that. I don't know what they were running from, but there was a danger that they were running from. Something they knew was getting ready to come upon them. It wasn't, I didn't feel like, hell, it wasn't that type of prophetic thing where they were all getting ready to go to hell. It wasn't that deep, but I knew that they were afraid of something getting ready to happen to them.
Well, there's plenty of earthly suffering before we get there.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's a very important point too. Is like the people in the hallway seem to have a better understanding of the danger they were in. She didn't. She was not as panicked, nor did she give this sense of truly appreciating the situation and her participation in it. As you're saying, she didn't have that revelation of, oh, wow, I helped cause this, and maybe I should feel responsible, and maybe I should do something about it. No, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to jump in the lifeboat and take care of myself.
That you described it perfectly. That's exactly how it was. I got to save myself now.
Yeah, save myself. That's exactly what I was thinking. And there's, and then you put yourself in that situation too, as an observer first, to get an appreciation of the situation, and then as an actor and looking at her, there's something in there in terms of, say, maybe how you would approach understanding other people, like even someone who later in life became.
I felt like she didn't know any better. I felt like she didn't know any better.
It was an expression of compassion from you.
Yeah,
towards another
I
human
helped
being.
her because I felt like she didn't know any better. I felt like she had done what she had done. I don't know what she did in the dream. I just knew she was a part of that world. I don't know what they were guilty of. I don't know what they were running from. But I knew that there was wrong that had been done. And I felt like there was no acknowledgement from her, and neither did she recognize the wrong.
Yeah. And it the first thing, well, not just as you were describing that, but it's just popped into my head, this idea of you're even trying to save the sinners that don't know how bad they're sinning. You're still trying to save them. I don't know if that resonates with you, that kind of.
Sure.
Maybe
I mean,
not.
I don't consider myself anybody's salvation. I just share, metaphysics with them. I'm not anybody's savior.
Yeah, no, I don't
think
mean that
sin is a sense of separation from the Creator. And I think that sense of separation causes us to do a lot of foolish things. But I always say I don't have a heaven or a hell to put anybody in. And I'm thankful that they don't have one to put me in.
Right.
But I did feel like there was, like I said, no acknowledgement on her part. She just did it. I helped her because I did feel like she didn't know any better.
Yeah. And I didn't mean that. The way I phrased it may have been poorly, of like,
no, you're fine.
Think you're a savior. Yeah. No. But
no. I knew that. I just, for people listening, yeah. I didn't think that, for whoever listens to this, I didn't want them thinking that, oh, he's there to try to save anybody, or he thinks he's no. I didn't think that. I didn't see myself as a savior when I was walking down the hall. I was just walking down the hall.
Yeah. Well, you saw an opportunity to help, and you took it. And that's the metaphor I'm going with the urge to be Christ-like in offering the same type of salvation to people, in that metaphorical sense of situations. Like, you are the savior of a puppy in a burning building, not because you think you're all that, but because that's an animal that needs help. You are able to help. You provide the help. That's it's very much, in my estimation, tapping into that godly love type of situation. So this is what you're doing. That's what we do when we express compassion towards people that are. Some people might look at them and say they're not deserving, and I think that feeds into the idea of Judge Judy being the judgmental one, looking down on people less deserving. You're actually showing the judgmental judge how to be compassionate by example. Is that hitting something of a mark for you?
Yeah, sure.
That
absolutely.
That actually feels like I got a moment in that one of like, this whole representation of even these people, who cause their own disaster and don't appreciate the danger they've put themselves in and their own responsibility for it. Even though they messed up so bad, I'm still the kind of person that I'm not going to judge them and say, let me lock the door to the burning building. You lit it on fire. You get to die. You're like, I'm going to open the window. I'm going to let her out. I'm still going to be, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be that compassionate person that I am, regardless.
Absolutely.
That's what I do.
Absolutely.
That's the vibe.
I think that's where we I think we can end on that. I think that's where we are. Yeah.
I think it's very much consistent with who you are. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It was a fun experience. I've never analyzed a dream before.
Fair enough.
But for those who, like I said, my alley is metaphysics, and my whole desire is to share what Dr. Kinley has graciously shared with me and his protege, my immediate teacher, Dr. Harris, and that is where we can go within to escape this harsh reality that we call life, the melancholy. Since we've been dealing with the pandemic and the sadness and the depression. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I only get depressed when I start thinking of Elijah Ware as being separate from the Creator, because he has an identity and an ego and all these other things that I have to try to cradle and tell him, oh, there now, you're lovable, you're acceptable. But when I look at him as being one with the cause of all things and the source of all things, I don't have to cradle him. because there's a scripture over there where the Messiah said he didn't strive to claim equality with the Father. You see, and Dr. Harris said he didn't strive to claim equality because he knew that he was the Father. You see, and so when we know that we're one with all source, you don't mind helping somebody who maybe didn't know. The Messiah said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And he did forgive them.
And you acted it out in your dream. You forgave her, even though she didn't know how badly she messed up. And
So I mean, and when I say I forgave her, I don't want anybody to think I've made myself a judge of this woman, but I have observed, and I did have an opinion of the things there was judgment there. I'm like you said, I'm not going to. We all do it, but are you judging with the right frame? Are you judging with a spiritual lens and not with a earthly, condescending, cruel lens that makes you think that person is separate from you and that you could never be guilty of what they've done? We could all be very guilty of what those people in that office were running from. We could all be guilty of finding newfound wealth. They say wealth doesn't change you; it just makes you more of who you really are.
Yeah.
And I know, I know enough about her. I don't know everything about her. I know enough that she found wealth later on, past 50 years of age in life. That's not old, but she wasn't a young lady at that time. But it does, I recall listening to her and thinking, well, she's kind of probably forgotten where she's came from, because, if you did, you wouldn't make some of the statements that you make in this condescending attitude towards all these little poor people who come in. They probably don't even make 30,000 a year, and here you come in here and I'm just gonna chew you up and spit you out because you're nothing compared to me. I don't want to listen to what your sad story. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I'm speaking. Pam, I told you I was speaking.
I got the gavel.
Didn't I tell you I was speaking? Hurry up and tell me what you got to say. My time is short. That type of thing. I think that's that's a supreme manifestation of a lot. Whether she's doing it for theatrics or not, I don't know. Maybe she's nothing like that in her real life. She could be a very sweet lady, and maybe that's just a lot of theatrics playing to the camera. But even still, you have to look yourself, examine yourself, as Paul said, to see what type of being you are. How are you treating people? What will they say about you when you're no longer walking around? Oh, I enjoyed hearing Ben really, nail into people, and boy, he would get them straight. Or was, Ben was a cool guy, very, compassionate, very understanding. He wasn't religious, but he exemplified the nature of one, that we would call the Christ. You see, because Christ didn't come in talking about you got to belong to anybody's church on Sunday. He came in talking about a nature that we should all want and possess. So I thank you for being on your show, Ben. Is there anything else you want to ask me before we go?
No, I think we're pretty good. I want to make sure that folks know where to find you. So I'm going to go back to my notes real quick like here. And okay, so once again, thanks to our guest, Elijah Ware. And I don't think I spelled it, so anyone who's just listening on the podcast, Elijah, Elijah Ware, Ware. And you can find him on Instagram, Facebook, and he's got a podcast, Zephyr, like the breeze, Zephyr, on multiple platforms, Apple and Spotify. And of course, I'm going to put all these links in the description below. And I'm going to do my housekeeping as well and say, hey, stop what you're doing, like, share, subscribe, smash that like button.
Sure.
Tell your friends, always need more volunteer dreamers, coffee mug, direct donations, whatever you want to do. As stated, don't take money for this, just talk to people. Books of historical dream literature on Amazon, and that is the housekeeping. The last thing to do is just, really thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming on to share your story.
It was fun. Thank you.
And your storytelling with us. It's good stuff. Your perspective. I love talking to different people because I never know where it's going to go, and I never know what they believe, what they're going to say, and we just connect on all of it. There's always something we can find in common to hopefully make the world a better place. So absolutely.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I always tell people to know God is to know yourself, and to know yourself is to know God. And when I say God, I'm not talking about a guy in the sky that looks like Ben, a white man with a big beard, who's sitting up high and look down low. I mean, that eternal consciousness that gives life to all things and that pervades and animates all things. and you can find him in you and as you. And if you want to hear more of that, or if you're interested in hearing more, I allow people to ask questions, whatever questions they have. I've done podcasts about, is the Bible true? And I go into how that the Bible is full of symbolism. You see, it's not literal, you see, but it is a symbolic truth. The Eastern writers of the Bible wrote in symbolism because it's really a cryptic way of conveying a thought. One of the things that the Pharisees asked the Messiah, they asked him, they said, why do you speak unto them in parables, but you speak unto us plainly? And he said, unto them it is not given to know the mystery of the kingdom of heaven, but unto you it is given. So we have to be careful when we just open the Bible and say, well, it says right there, the sky is blue, so the sky is blue. Well, it did say that, but that's not what it means. You see, what it says and what it means is two different things. And I don't argue back and forth. I simply give an explanation. If it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. There's never been one spiritual teacher that has been sent to teach the whole world, even though it may seem like, when somebody says Christ, no, he had a very small audience. That message has just grown out to the whole world.
That's true.
I'll tell you a funny joke. There was a lady on this show. She was what they call a streetwalker or a prostitute. And this woman says to her, I bet you've never even read the Bible before. And she says, I have read the Bible before. And the woman says, well, tell me what the first book of the Bible says, what it says when you first open up the Bible. And she says, it says, do not remove from this hotel room.
That's good. We'll go out on a joke. And if you'll hang out for 2 seconds afterward, We'll say our proper goodbyes. And I'll just tell everybody listening, hey, thank you for joining us for another episode of Dreamscapes. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.